What's up, guys? Doing 1, 2, and 2, and it's Top Tuesday. Yes, Top Tuesday. We are continuing our series of looking at every one of the main sets of this game and looking at all the best cards in those sets. And today's set is Legacy of Darkness. Yes, Legacy of Darkness, the debut of Spirit Monsters. I actually really bought a ton of this set when I was a kid, which is kind of funny because I actually totally forgot the set existed. I actually thought Spirits came out in the next set, which is kind of funny. But nope, yeah. And it's not like this set is unimportant. It actually has its fair share of ban cards in it, so you know, it's actually probably a decently powered set if you consider just rating a set on how many broken, banned, or limited cards it has. There really wasn't any super hard-hitting, like, meta-defining archetypes released in this set or anything at this point still. So it was either all the banned cards or just a bunch of random crap in the set. So it's actually kind of an interesting set because there's a big power discrepancy between the good cards and the bad cards in this set. But anyway, without further ado, let's get started. This time around, it's going to be a little bit different because we really can't look at this set in a bubble because some of these cards are very important but weren't super important when they came out. Erinite Parshat, a level 5 light fairy with 1900 attack and 1400 defense. When you attack a defense position monster, this monster can do piercing damage, and if it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you get to draw one card. Back in the old days of Yu-Gi Mans, when it was really slow and it was like you normal summoned each other to death, sacking a card for this thing was broken because your opponent was probably on the defensive. You're going to get that battle damage in, and then you're going to draw a card, and you're going to start swinging advantage in your direction. That's kind of why a lot of people like the older formats, because you didn't just explode and get tons of advantage turn 1, you accrued advantage slowly over the course of the next 5 turns of the duel. Meaning a duel could last upwards of 10 turns and it not be unusual, and at the end it really comes down to who held their cards, who played their cards at the right time, and who was actually the more skillful player. The good old days. And Erinite Parshat was absolutely no exception to this. This thing is the epitome of rolling advantage. Obviously it's been power creep to death, but you know, it does have some of that weird use in the counter fairy deck. I have literally no idea why they decided to make this part of counter fairies, but you know, there is always that. And I really think the card is just cool from a classic standpoint. I like Erinite. Exiled Force. Exiled Force is a weird card because it's one of those ones that didn't see a ton of play when it first came out, but it sees spotty play through the entire history of the game because of just what it does. As a level 4 Earth Warrior with 1000 attack, 1000 defense, what does it do? You contribute this face-up card to target one monster in the field and destroy it. You guys gotta read the original print of this card. It's an absolute nightmare of lacking problem-solving text. It's like, offer this card as a tribute to blah 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 blah, and it's like, if you tribute summon this or something like that, or tribute something for an effect, this doesn't count, or so. It's this really long stipulation to try to, like, so you don't like sack it for something. For Erinite, for instance, and then like, oh, it popped the card. Because back in the day, apparently, literally no one knew how the game worked, and we just tried to cheat, I guess. I don't know. But what makes this card interesting is being a level 4 warrior, it's particularly searchable, and because you can distribute it and sack it and pop a card means if there's something like, I don't know, the Gin Lock on board, this is a good way of getting rid of something that's a problem that's stopping you from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Obviously, when the set came out, this is just kind of an odd 1-for-1 card, and it wasn't super great, but as the game has progressed, every once in a while we've run into a situation where this thing is just really nifty. It's a good invoker target, I suppose. The card's seen its time in the limelight, so it gets a spot on the list. Injection Fairy Lily. She was a secret rare in this set. Yes, Injection Fairy Lily. I believe she spent some time on the Forbidden Limited list, I think in 1, if I'm not mistaken, simply because she was a normal, summonable, humongo beater. A level 3 Earth Fairy type, but what does she do? With 400 attack and 1500 defense, her stats aren't very good, but she does have that good damage calc attack manipulation effect. If this card is attacked or is attacked during damage calc, you can spend 2k life to make her gain 3000 attack. During damage calc is the only time it really matters what your monster's attack is, because there's very few instances where outside of the damage calculation the attack of a monster actually matters too much at all. Also meaning the things that can get in her way and can stop her from using her effect are actually very limited because damage calculation is not open to all different types of card effects. It's only pretty much attack manipulation effects and negation effects, so you have less things for your opponent to actually get in the way and stop her. And because she's a normal summonable level 3, you can just stack her on the field, pay her life, and just smash her into your opponent's Blue Eyes White Dragon, and because she's up at 34, you can get over anything you damn want. She was probably one of the first instances where players really started to realize your life points really don't matter. I will pay half my life points for a normal summonable 3400 beater if it gets me out of a bad situation. 2000 life is absolutely nothing. I'd do that for Solemn Warning. I'll do that for Inject Fairy Loot. I don't know why this thing's not a light fairy. All fairies should be light. And the fact that, you know, you are paying a substantial part of your life points over and over again anytime this thing attacks or is attacked, it does really start to play some sort of meta game with you and your opponent, and like kind of a game of chicken here. How many life points is it worth keeping this thing on the field? That's a very interesting dynamic, and that's not something we really have much of at this point anymore. Creature Swap. Creature Swap is a really fun card because it's infinitely fair. Each player chooses one monster on their side of the field and switches control of it. Those monsters can't change their battle position for the rest of the turn. I'm not really sure exactly what the point of that last clause is. Maybe you take your opponent's monster that's in attack mode, but it's actually got a really big defense, so you want to like, and you can't, I guess. I don't know, that doesn't seem like that'd ever be a problem, but okay, fine. Sure, you neg yourself one card in order to use this, and you're gonna have no control over what you're stealing, but it is permanent, which is really cool. Most of these steal your opponent's monster cards are only for the turn, so the fact this is permanent is super nifty. Also, this card decidedly doesn't target because you picked the monster you're switching control of during this card's resolution, not upon activation. This card has no activation cost. Literally, its activation cost is play the card to the field, which means if the game state changes before this card gets a chance to resolve, it still will resolve as long as there's monsters on either side of the field. I'm pretty sure you can't cheese this with like Wind Up Rabbit and like chain to it and bounce, and then I think it fizzles if it doesn't have two targets, I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm not the wiki man. Although that trap card that spins 2 to the deck works with Wind Up Rabbit, so maybe this does too. I don't know. The only reason why I'm intimately aware of the fact that this thing doesn't target is because back in the day I was playing at locals up in Rochester, and I played this card on my opponent's Shaddolls, and he used El Shaddol Fusion to get it off the field and played a different dude. I think it was Construct, maybe, I don't remember. And then I was like, okay, fine, I'll take your Construct instead because it was the only monster he had. And he's like, oh, it doesn't work because I changed the game state. And the judge came over and he's like, yeah, it's right, he changed the game state, but it doesn't target. You're both bad at Yu-Gi-Oh! And he's like, ugh. And then I got a bad ruling. I'm actually still kind of mad about that. Is that how the card works? All right, I'm spending way too much time on this card because I'm way too salty about it. I think I was playing Spirits at the time. I was playing Spirits at the time because I gave my opponent like a Nikitama. Then it's like, end phase bounce. Oh, I gotta keep your stall. It was a fun deck. Bottomless Trap Hole. Everyone always talks about topless, but I'm gonna start the bottomless party. I just watched that the other day. Bottomless Trap Hole recently came to 3, but it had been spending a majority of its life at the ban list at 1, so it's actually very interesting to see that this is just how old this card is. When your opponent summons a monster with 1500 or more attack, you can flip this card up, destroy that monster, and if you do, banish it. This thing pretty much power creeps the crap out of regular Trap Hole. Sure, Trap Hole has the 1000 attack power Limbo Stick, where this is 15, but the fact that it banishes what is being summoned is infinitely more useful, because even at this point in the game when this card came out, we had enough graveyard recursion where banishing was pretty much removing it from the game completely. I don't actually think we had very much recovery from the banish pile at this point at all. When does that Mass Monster Reborn card from the banish pile come out? Is it this set? No, banned, whatever. But yes, with this card at 3, it is actually really much more usable. I think most of the time you're probably going to opt for the Torrential Tribute, which also just came back. But I do like Bottomless. It's a great target for your Rafflesia. And the fact that it, like I said before, it banishes the thing that it's killed, including things from the extra deck and things like that, you can really super solidly deal with stuff. I do wish it just banished the monster as opposed to destroying it and then banishing it, because that does actually come up. You couldn't use this on Beel's because he just can't get killed by it, so therefore he can't get banished by it, which is kind of stupid. I feel like the card, you know, only says that because it's old, and if this was printed now, it would just banish upon summon, not destroy and banish, but okay, whatever. Next card. We're getting down to the wire, so we're gonna start seeing them ones, those twos, and those on all the cards in YGO Pro at this point. Reinforcements of the Army. Yeah, Reinforcements of the Army is super old too. Add one level 4 or lower warrior monster from your deck to your hand. That's all it does. Pretty good. The funny thing about this card is it's a specific by type search card, and it is put to 1. Warriors have tons of support. There's tons of good decks in the warrior typing, like for heroes and 6 samurai, or just the first 2 that come to mind. Viral, UA. There's tons of warrior decks. Noble Knights. So the fact that there's a generic search card for warrior type monsters, it makes sense that you put this thing to 1, simply because, you know, Satellar Knights. It's not archetype specific, so pretty much any deck that is a warrior can abuse the poop out of it. And for this series of videos, I'm actually going to start using as much as I can the artwork from the set that I'm talking about, as opposed to a reprint artwork. So if you guys can actually read it, you can see the old before problem solving text where like this card in particular is just it's a quite wonky way of saying what we all know this card does. But overall, this card is just synonymous with searching monsters. At this point in the game, we call anything that searches a monster out of your deck a Rota, Reinforcements of the Army. So it makes sense this card has lasted as long as it has, and has been on the ban list as long as it has. Forbidden list, well, limited list. You know what I mean? And it's pretty much ban cards from from here on out. So strap in. I might get some heat from putting this card so high on the list. Well, it's not high, it's in the bottom 5, but you know what I mean. Yada Garasu! Ah yes, Yada Garasu, the crazy little bird that created the ban list. Not the limited list, the actual ban list. This card and his buddy Chaos Emperor Dragon, they created the ban list, where they actually came out and said, as Konami, yeah, you can't actually use this card at all, even at 1. No. So why the hell would something that created the ban list be not number 1 on this list? Well, I think because it did get power creeped, actually. What does Yada Garasu do? Level 2 wind fiend type monster for some strange reason. I don't know why this isn't a winged beast, other than the fact that all the spirit monsters, which came out in this set, and he's going to be kind of their de facto representation for them on the set. I actually love spirit monsters. I actually mentioned them earlier in the video, and that was had nothing to do with the fact that they were in this set. That was complete happenstance that I did that, because I don't write scripts. But I wouldn't say any of the spirit monsters that came out in this set are particularly broken. I mean, Yamada Dragon and Haino Katasuchi have really nifty effects if you can actually resolve them, but they are an absolute bear to do so because they require 2 tributes. And he's kind of in the same vein because you have to do battle damage in order to use it, but because it's a level 2 fiend and it's a wind, it's super easy to get on board, so it's, you know, it's easier to get him off, even though his battle condition is kind of annoying. This card cannot be special summoned because it's a spirit. During the end phase, if this card was summoned this turn, it bounces back to the hand because it's a spirit. They all do that. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, they skip their next draw phase. And this is why the card was banned. You'd mix this with Chaos Emperor Dragon, you'd nuke their board, you'd nuke their hand, you'd poke them with the bird, and they have no cards in hand, no cards on the field. During their turn, they can't even draw, so at this point, they have lost. They literally cannot play Yu-Gi-Oh! They have no resources. And that Yada lock was actually the reason why the ban list was created. However, I do believe at this point in time, that is maybe a little hard to pull off. What are you gonna do? Equip this thing with Moo Mirror Shield and smack into something? That just seems really goofy, and it's still... Okay, that's kind of funny. But I really don't think it's super viable for today's format. The game is just too fast. I think Yada could come back to 1, it won't be a problem. So that's why he's higher on the list than all the other banned cards. But I do feel I should at least mention that, you know, he is a spirit, so I got the spirit representation, and the fact that he's the one that created the ban list, which is why we have all these on the cards this time moving forward. Super Rejuvenation! Super Rejuvenation is one of those cards, just like Exiled Force, where I think when it came out, people were like, oh, okay, that's neat, I guess. And then later. Super Rejuvenation, with Cave Dragon in its artwork, is a quick play magic card that reads, during the end phase of this turn, draw cards equal to the number of dragon monsters you discarded from your hand or tributed from your hand or your side of the field this turn. Yeah, this is kind of busted only because it is a quick play play spell. And obviously the deck that abused this card more than any other deck in history would be Dragon Rulers. Basically the way the deck worked is you use your Dragon Ruler, you discard it with its own effect along with another card to search something or mill something or whatever, depends what Dragon Ruler you're using. And then during the end phase, you just slap this card down and get all that advantage back. And what was the most broken was because it is a quick play, and if you super rejuved into another super rejuve during the end phase of that same end phase, you can slap that down and then draw the same amount of cards you just got, and it was dumb. Yes, this card is actually kind of stupid. I don't think when they designed the card they ever expected it to be this good, because sacking or discarding a bunch is not great, and waiting to your end phase to get your resources back is super slow, so that makes sense that you'd think that this card wouldn't ever be good. But if you're drawing 5 or 6 off of it into another one, drawing another 5 or 6 off of it, I don't care how slow it is, I'll go plus 12. Could the card come off the ban list? I actually have no idea, because Dragon Ruler's a ban, and I'm not sure any other deck could super abuse it. I guess Radix, because they actually do the tribute, not the discard, so that's kind of nifty. But even still, I don't know. I hate to risk it. I mean, at 1, it wouldn't be such a problem because you couldn't do it into itself, I guess. I don't know. This is really funny. I actually just talked about this card in another video. That's kind of funny. Last Turn, the cover card of the set, and an ultra rare. Yeah, back in the day, the ultra rares were the cover cards, not the secret rares. We only had 2 secret rares, which was cool because one of them was the last card in the set, and the other one was the first card in the set, but its card number was 000, so it was like a secret card. I thought that was really cool when I was a kid. This card can only be activated during your opponent's turn when your life points are 1,000 or less. So the activation condition on this card is a little specific. So why is it banned? Select one monster you control and then send all other cards on the field to their respective players' graveyards. And do the same thing with your hands. So basically when you activate this card, you target a monster, and then every single card that everybody has except that one little dude gets sent to the graveyard. Clear the board, clear the hand. Then your opponent selects one monster from their deck and special summons it to their side of the field, and then the cards are forced into a battle with each other. At the end of the battle, whoever's monster is remaining on the field, that player is declared victor of the duel. Yes, this is one of the weirder cards in the game, one of the weirdest cards in the game, frankly, but I really can never get over just how badass this effect is. I wish we could have this card. And as it states, it doesn't really sound like it's that big of a deal. Obviously, it's punishing the winning player for just simply winning. But it's a really cool Yugi moment to use this thing, so, you know, it was really cool to have it. However, I think the reason why it's on the ban list is because people were using it with cards like Fossil Dyna so that your opponent wouldn't actually be able to summon a monster to fight the Fossil Dyna, and because the way the card's worded, it's the only monster remaining on the field because it never even had to fight anything, and then you're automatically declared the victor. So it's like you just let your opponent just smack into your face until you have 1,000 life points and oh, that turn! It's kind of an auto-win card. That's kind of dumb. I understand why it's banned. Alright, the honorable mentions for this list are actually kind of one personal pick and one I wasn't sure whether to put it on the list or not because it's banned, but it's kind of crappy, just like Time Seal was. Bad Reaction to Samochi. Ah yes, Death to Smoochie is one of my all-time favorite trap cards. I wouldn't say it's super good, and in this particular set, you really can't do much with it, but it is one of the key components to the Nurse Burn deck, which is one of my favorite first troll decks I ever really got my teeth into. Any effect that would heal your opponent is done to them as damage instead. Ah, so trolly. You play this with like Gift Card, or you play this with Paths of Destiny. Upstart Goblin is my favorite. All these cards give your opponent's life, or potentially give your opponent's life, but you're gonna actually end up burning them instead. It's super trolly to set 5 end your turn, and then during their draw phase, and then you hit them for like 9,000 damage. It's so dumb. And it's basically just a trap version of Nurse Requfuel the Fallen, or whatever her Dark Lord rename is. But it is important for that deck, so I figured I'd at least honorably mention it. And then the other honorable mention is Fiber Jar, a banned card. I don't know what's up with these jars, man. These jars and these pots. It's like Konami just can't help but make broken pottery. It's a flip effect monster, an Earth level 3 plant. And its flip effect is each player shuffles all cards on their field, all cards in their graveyard, and all cards in their hand back into their decks and draws 5 new cards. Basically resetting the duel except for the banish pile. I can see why maybe perhaps this card is on the ban list. That effect in itself isn't super great. It's just restarting the duel and maintaining whatever the current life points are. However, what it really does is make every single game game it resolves go into time in official tournaments, being a giant pain in the ass for literally everybody participating. Unless you're like super fast, like play, and you can actually finish a duel in 40 minutes, which is surprisingly difficult, especially when you're resolving stupid cards like this. This card should probably be pretty much stuck on the ban list, only just because it makes tournament play just kind of stupid. Tournament play really annoying. But the reason why I put on the honorable mentions as opposed to putting it on the main list was I don't actually think it's, like I said, that great of a card. It's kind of on the ban list because it's annoying, not because it's super great. If your opponent's going to attack into this thing, you're gonna do it, you're gonna all shuffle and draw, but then they got a main phase 2 and 5 new cards, like, and they have tons of, like, you know, momentum still at this point because they just probably killed all your monsters in battle, or at very least they killed this because that's all that mattered, because it got rid of any other board that you had. Now you're completely open, they can just kind of go ham at this point. Plus their deck is completely rejuvenated with all of its resources except for the banish pile, so frankly I don't think it's that great. It would be better to flip on your turn if you could, but I don't know, it's an honorable mention. Oh, and number 1 for Legacy of Darkness is Royal Oppression, which is actually just a rare in this set. It was like funny that all the holo cards, they didn't get number 1. That's another ban card. Each player can pay 800 life points to negate the special summon of a monster, or the effect of a card that special summons a monster, and destroy that card or cards. This is a continuous trap this continuous trap is pretty much just a better version of Vanity's Emptiness, which is also on the ban list, so it makes absolutely perfect sense why we can't have this card. Sure, both players can use it, which is actually kind of unusual for the game. Most cards, you know, your opponent can't use your cards unless it's like a field spell that just gives a blanket attack boost, but you're not really using it, you're just taking advantage of it. No, you're actually literally allowed to use this card even on your opponent's side of the field, which is kind of strange, but that's not how it gets played. No, the way this card would get played is, I make a huge board, set this thing, flip it during your standby phase or whatever, and then say, good luck! You can't even just like run something over in battle to make my Vanity's Emptiness go to the graveyard like you can with that card. Nope, this thing's stuck on the field, and I can just pay all my life until you're out of resources. That's, it's dirty. And I don't think this card could ever come back at all. It's way too powerful. If it was maybe eroded to a once per turn, each player can do this, that'd be kind of neat. I'd be okay with that. It'd still be really obnoxious, but it'd be more fair. And there really isn't a ton to say about it. It's a really powerful old school card that's just dripping with, we didn't know how to print cards at this point still effect. But yeah, Royal Oppression. So anyway guys, that was the list for Legacy of Darkness, this old school set that I completely forgot about despite the fact that it contains one of my favorite decks. It also contains a copious amount of ban cards, which is actually quite interesting. So in the comments below what you guys think of the list, what set you guys are looking forward to, and remember guys, if you don't troll, no matter who will, I will see you guys next time.
Wait just a moment. I can see you were about to click the subscribe button. Was I right? Tell me I was right. I was right? My Millennium Eye lets me see everything, including these other videos by Davy Boy. Don't be a stranger. You will always be welcome in my Toon World.